welcome to Stress Busters. I'm Dr. Keisha Moore of Life and Focus Coaching, and I help women to create more time and energy so that you can accomplish your most important goals and create a life that you love, both professionally and personally. I'm also the host of a free Facebook group entitled Purpose, Passion, and Power. And that group was created for female entrepreneurs, business owners, and female professionals who are willing to commit to creating a career and a life that they love. The link to the Facebook group is right here in this post. So please do. I encourage you to click on the link and to join us. And we have great conversations there, and we'd love to see you there. Now, that's who I am. I'd love to know who you are. So please do type your name in the chat box below. I'd love to be able to welcome you personally, as well as hear any questions or insights or comments you have on the topic that we'll be sharing today. So today I'm going to be talking with you about our habits and how the habits that drive our goal setting really do influence long-term life outcomes related to success, both professionally and personally. Now, our focus all this month is on success and on particular, what are the habits that lead to success? We've spent the first 2 weeks talking about the habits that don't lead to success. And so today we're pivoting and we're going to explore more. What are some of the particular habits that do help us to become successful in all areas of our lives? Now, I've posted an infographic that's based on research that describes the 16 habits of the most successful people of our time. And that infographic is posted in my Facebook group. So make sure that you join the Facebook group, get in there, get that infographic, and start working those habits into your own life. So you may already be doing some of them, but I'm sure there are a few that you can add to your success habit routine. So please do that. Now, today, what I wanted to start our conversation around is thinking about what motivates us to do goal setting and goal achievement actually does shape the outcomes of our lives. So some of us are motivated and driven to do things because we have a hope of success. We expect ourselves to be successful, and so that motivates us to take particular steps that we think are necessary to maximize that success. Others of us also are quite ambitious. We have high goals for ourselves, but really what motivates us is fear of failure. So we're motivated to do things that will minimize our chances of failing. And trying to avoid failing is pretty much the primary focus behind all of our behavior. Now, those things might seem to be similar, right? Trying to maximize your success, trying to minimize your failure. But as you'll see in a few minutes, they're really not the same. And they lead to very different outcomes. So I thought I would share a story of two women. And so we'll call the first woman Successful Susan, and we'll call the second woman Fearful Frida. And we can use their lives and their experiences to help illustrate what are the differences in when we're motivated by a hope of success or when we're motivated by a fear of failure. So habits are learned responses, right? They're things that we do that give us an internal reward, and so we keep doing them. And then we apply them in all kinds of situations that are similar because this is our habit. So let's think about how people, Susan and Frida, may have developed these habits of hope of success or habits of fear of failure. So let's travel back in time to when they're in high school and they're both sitting at the table studying for their exams. And you can find them studying pretty much every day of the week. So we might see that behavior and think, oh, these are both very highly ambitious young women and they study every day, and so we would expect that they'd have similar outcomes. But that's not true. We have to think about what's motivating that habit. So for Susan, what is motivating her habit to study is because she's focused on maximizing her success. She's developing a sense of self-mastery, and she recognizes that, oh, when I do this activity, studying, I get better. I'm more confident in the classroom, I do better on my exams, and I understand the material better. And so since I can see myself being more successful doing this activity, I'll do it more. And so for Susan, she's developing this habit, and the reward that she's getting is that sense of accomplishment, of self-mastery. So this is why people may really enjoy putting together, jigsaw puzzles, or I was an 80s baby, so everybody was into the Rubik's Cube, those kinds of things. The joy of it is it's challenging. And so because it's challenging, when you do it, you feel proud of yourself and good and like, I've mastered something. So that habit of seeking out self-mastery is what Susan is cultivating, and that's what leads her to this hope of success. Now let's go to Frida. So Frida is also at the table studying. She studies every day. But her motivation for studying is really to avoid feelings of shame and guilt for not studying, because her mother is always telling her, Frida, you better study. You're not going to get into a good college and medical school if you don't study. And so studying is very important. And so that's why Frida does it, right? She feels guilty if she's not doing it. And so the act of studying rewards her because it gives her relief from the guilt that's going in her mind when she's not studying. Oh, I should be studying. I should be studying. But she doesn't really have a sense of mastery. Now, I have a teenage daughter, and I was really convicted when I was putting together this material, because I am that kind of parent. I often find myself, nagging and saying, you should really do your homework and study, and it's so important. And I could see now when I'm putting this together, like, oh, how it really does rob the child of recognizing that studying is helpful in building a sense of self-mastery and confidence. And so that has very different outcomes over the course of their lives. So let's look at Frida and Susan and see how these different motivations affect their long-term success and development. So one of the things that we know from research is that people who have a hope of success are much more willing to take on challenges, right? Difficult, challenging tasks than people who have a fear of failure. So the people who have a hope of success, like Susan, will seek out challenges that are about moderate difficulty, right? It's just on the other side of their comfort zone. It's not easy for them. It is hard, and they seek it out because they want that feeling of self-mastery. But not people who are afraid of failure. People who are afraid of failure actually don't want to do those kind of moderately difficult tasks. And that's because it creates a lot of anxiety. What if I don't do well? What if I fail, right? So I'd rather just not do it. And so people who are motivated by a fear of failure, in the research, we actually see that they're more likely to act around easy tasks. So if something is easy and they know they can do it without failing, they'll do those. And then they'll also act and try hard when something is very, very difficult. And so they'll kind of kick into high gear at the end. And it's because with the very difficult task, their anxiety gets so high. And again, they're motivated to relieve the anxiety. And so they'll do some work to try to lower that anxiety. But you can think about how likely is it that you're going to be able to ace, that exam when you haven't been studying up until the night before, right? Like, it's probably not going to work. But we find that lots of people who have this fear of failure and who are motivated by that, these are the people who struggle with procrastination. And you can see why, because the fear of failure brings up a lot of anxiety for them, and they're motivated to relieve that anxiety rather than being drawn to something that they really want. So there was this study of little kids, fifth and sixth graders. And what they noticed is that the fifth and sixth graders who were documented as having a hope of success, right, who believed that they could be successful, these were the ones who were motivated to take on more challenging questions, more difficult questions. They actually actively sought out those challenging questions and wanted to do them in the study. Whereas the kids who were like, I just want to make sure I don't fail, those were the kids who didn't take on difficult challenges. So let's think about successful Susan and fearful Frida again, and how this habit of seeking out difficult challenges or avoiding difficult challenges would affect them in their adult life. Now, let's say both Susan and Frida have established, we want to start our business, and, they're ready to launch, and they have comparable levels of talent and ability. So this is not about some people are just good at it and some people aren't. They have the same level of ability. But let's see how this habit of hope of success or fear of failure might manifest themselves in their lives. So everyone knows when you launch a business, you have to let people know you're open and that, you're accepting clients, you're selling, whatever it is. So networking and sharing with people about your business is a really important part of your business launch. So with Susan, successful Susan, what she does is she starts practicing talking about herself and her business with people that she knows. So she practices with her family, she practices with her friends, she practices in everyday situations when she's in the grocery store or she meets a new person at the PTA and they ask, what do you do? This is where she practices talking about herself and talking about her business. Now, fearful Frida doesn't practice, again, because it's too anxiety producing. But what she does do is sign herself up for a business networking event. And so there she's going to be able to, share with all these other professionals what she does, and this is going to be her launch. And so she's really proud of herself. But again, this is a high anxiety experience. She's never done it before. These are with people that she doesn't know and her colleagues. And so when she wakes up the morning of the event, she's too nervous. She can't go. She doesn't feel well. She gets sick. And so she just doesn't go. Right? Trust me, it happens. And so thinking about, how the way that you approach your learning a new skill and your expectation of success or your focus on, I just don't want to fail, it has major consequences for how you're going to do that behavior. So they're both trying to learn a new skill of networking that they know will be helpful in establishing their business, but their ability to do it is different because they have different motivations. Now, success is based on developing a habit of setting moderately difficult goals and achieving them over time. That is all it is. It's really not a secret. It's a habitual response where you're constantly looking outside of your comfort zone to stretch yourself into something that is challenging for you now, but over time will become easier because you'll get better skills and better practice. Now, Michael Hyatt refers to this as the zone of discomfort, right? So we all have our comfort zone. These are things that we already know how to do it. We're good at it. We can ace it, do it with our eyes closed. Okay, success is not in that comfort zone. In that comfort zone is what you already have. If you want more out of your life, you have to step outside of that comfort zone. You will never get the things that you're actively seeking now staying in your comfort zone. So success requires that we step outside of our comfort zone into this zone of discomfort. And Michael Hyatt says, when you're setting a goal, if it makes you feel like your stomach gets tight and you feel a little nervous and oh, this is scary, that's exactly the spot you're supposed to be. That's how you know you're doing a good job setting goals. Now, there's a zone of discomfort, and then there is like crazy zone, just out in the stratosphere where you pick a goal and it's so far removed from your current experience that it's just unrealistic. So you don't want to pick something that's way out there. You want to pick something that is in this zone of discomfort. Now, the interesting thing is that people who are motivated by a fear of failure, they are very ambitious people. It's not that they don't have ambition, but it's often that they're likely to pick goals that are unrealistic and kind of so far outside of their comfort zone. Because again, they're motivated to do things that are easy or things that are extremely, extremely hard. And so the things that are in that zone of uncomfortability, that discomfort zone, they don't like to live there. And that makes it very difficult for them to develop a scaffolding of habits and skills that will lead them to their ultimate goal. You can definitely get there. I know you can, but you can't get there overnight. There's steps to take. So the other interesting thing about people who have this hope, this habit of a hope of success, is that they are more likely to stay engaged and to persist even in the face of failure. And this is absolutely critical because we know we fail all the time, right? Especially when we're trying something new, especially when we're doing something that is difficult. So for those of you who've established businesses, right, was that easy? Did you get it right the first time? Did you get a win your first time you tried to get a sale? It's not easy. What about having successful, loving, intimate, long-term relationships? How easy is that? Do you build an amazing marriage overnight? Are you a wonderful parent and have a great parent-child relationship and it happens just like that? Or how about getting in shape, right? Do you get that perfectly sculpted body, that six-pack abs just overnight? You just took some pills and you woke up and there it is and it was easy? No. The things that we want to do aren't easy. They're difficult. If they were easy, we would already have them. So this is why it's important for us to have this habit of hope of success, because that's what's going to motivate us to stay in the game long enough to get the result that we're seeking. So people who have a hope of success, from the research we know that they're more likely to get the outcomes, the goals that they've set for themselves, not because they're more talented, not because they want it more, but because they have this habit. And this habit of setting moderate goals and persisting allows them to accomplish what they're seeking. So the research shows us that people who are motivated by a fear of failure, they're going to try their hardest when something is extremely, extremely difficult. Now, we know that's not likely to be successful because it's extremely, extremely difficult. And then they're more likely to get frustrated and feel like, I can't do it because the thing they're trying to do, again, is, too far removed from their current reality. So let's think about how this might play out with Susan and Frida again. So let's say, Susan and Frida are both launching their business. They've scheduled a presentation with potential customers, prospects, and they're giving their best shot. This is their best presentation pitch. And Susan is rejected. She did her best and she was rejected. So because she has a hope of success, which she focuses on, she feels bad. It's disappointing, it's demoralizing, but she focuses on getting feedback from the people in the room about what she did well, what she could do better. She also gives her own self-evaluation. How did I do that? What could I do differently? What could I do better? And she uses all of that information to set up her next presentation and to revise for her next pitch. So how does Frida respond? So Frida is so disappointed again that she was rejected. She really wanted this. She worked very hard for it. And she sees this rejection as a personal rejection, right? It's saying, I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. My business idea isn't good. It won't work. The business model won't work. No one will ever hire me to do anything. And so those feelings feel so bad and create so much anxiety that all she wants to do is get away from them. Okay? And so that means that she's going to avoid thinking about what happened, asking for feedback from the other people in the room, because everything they say is going to feel like a criticism and not helpful. It's going to feel like reminding her of her failure. So she tries to avoid that and avoid dealing with that situation. She also starts avoiding setting up the next presentations, because every time she's thinking about it, it's bringing up, these really bad feelings. So who do you think is more likely to have long-term success? Susan or Frida, right? They're both highly qualified. They both really want it. But these different habits, these different ways of engaging with the world actually create major differences in the outcomes and success of their businesses and of their lives. Now, I wanted to share with you an example that I learned from Beyonce. So they don't call her Queen Bee for nothing. I believe Beyonce has a hope of success habit, and I'm going to tell you why. So I read that after her performance, every performance that she gives, goes late into the night, she comes home, she takes a shower, and she watches a videotape of that night's performance from beginning to end with her notebook and takes notes on everything that happened that was good, what she'd like to do differently, and issues that out to her team for the next performance. Now that is a habit of success. It's constantly focusing on, how can I get better? I'm already at the top of my game, but I know that there's room for improvement, and I feel better about myself as I'm kind of constantly growing. So people who have this hope of success, they cultivate this habit of self-mastery, of always asking, how can I get better? And they also view failure as feedback, if not as a permanent condition for themselves. And they set goals that are outside of their comfort zone. That's where they like to live. And so I want to ask you, are these your habits now? And it's okay if they're not, because habits are simply learned behaviors. We can always develop new habits. We don't have to rely on how we've been in the past. We can always start today to create a new future for ourselves. But it begins by being honest with ourselves about what are our current habits and what kind of habits do we have to put in place in order to accomplish our goals. So if you would like some support around setting some of these new habits, please join the Facebook group. There's a community of people there who would love to support you as you work to build these habits into your life. And as I said before, I have a great infographic already posted there that I'd love to share with you, where you can see what are the 16 habits of the most successful people of our time. And you can start adding those to your behaviors and allowing those habits to create the kind of successful outcomes for your life that you desire. Now, I can't wait to see you in this group. Please do click on the link and join. And it has been a pleasure for me to spend this time with you. I so look forward to Monday afternoons. I know I get to jump on and share with you, and I love the comments and questions that you raise. So please do continue to do that. And if you enjoyed this video, if you got something out of it, share it with someone else. Don't hoard all the knowledge to yourself. We can all get better and grow better together. So until next Monday at 12 noon, I will see you then. I wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and a life that is filled with meaning, purpose, and joy. Have a great day.